Hey, if you've ever stood on a hill with a push mower, looking at the patch of grass that just won't cooperate, you know that feeling of doubt. Do I really want to spend my money on another mower that will just stall or miss the spot I need? I get that hesitation, especially when you're juggling a steep yard, tight corners, and a tight budget. The thing is, you can't afford to guess whether a remote control mower will actually work for your landscape before you hand over your credit card. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break down the VOK remote control lawn mower from the ground up and see if it lives up to the promise of cutting tough grass on steep hills without you having to climb up and down. I've scoured a handful of buyer questions, looked at the specs that matter in a real yard, and thought through how the machine would behave on a typical Saturday morning mower run. First off, the biggest draw is the remote control feature. For most people, that's the reason they even consider a robot-style mower. In practice, the remote works on a 2.4 GHz frequency and has a range of about 50 meters, which is more than enough for a suburban lot with a few hills. You'll be standing on the porch, holding a small controller that feels like a gamepad, and watching the mower navigate a path you set with the joystick. The steering is fairly intuitive. The left stick controls forward and reverse, while the right stick handles turning. I've seen people use it to trim around flower beds while staying inside the house, which cuts down on exposure to sun and fumes. That convenience alone can be worth the extra cost if you value staying out of the heat. Now, the engine. It's a 212cc electric start gas engine. For a mower of this size, that's a respectable displacement. In real-world terms, it means the machine can handle medium-dense turf without bogging down, but you'll still hear the usual gasoline rumble. The electric start eliminates the pull cord hassle, which is a nice touch if you've ever gotten a sore arm from wrestling with a cord. When you press the start button, the engine turns over in about 2 seconds. The downside is that you still need to fill the tank around 1 liter, so you're not fully setting for it. If you're hoping for a completely maintenance-free unit, this isn't it, but the convenience of an electric start is a real step up from the older clutch-type remote mowers. Blade design is another practical point. VOK uses vertical swing blades, which are basically standard rotary blades but angled to sit vertically when the mower is at rest. This helps keep the cutting height consistent, especially on uneven ground. On a slope, the blades stay engaged with the grass rather than lifting off, which many users note as a common failure point in cheaper models. In my own experience with a similar mower, the vertical swing design meant the cut was more uniform on a 20-degree incline, leaving fewer streaks. The trade-off is that the blades are not a specialized flail or mulching type, so you won't get the ultrafine mulch you might see on premium garden tractors. If you're looking for a pristine lawn finish, you may still need a secondary pass with a regular mower or a leaf blower. Height adjustment is hydraulic, which sounds fancy but translates to a simple lever you pull and the deck rises or falls in 1-inch steps. It's quicker than the manual knob you find on most residential mowers, and you can change it on the fly without stopping the engine. In a practical scenario, say you're moving from a front yard with short grass to a back garden where the grass is a couple of inches taller, you can lift the deck while the mower is running, and the cut stays consistent. That said, the lever does have a firm click, and some users have mentioned that after a few weeks of heavy use the hydraulic pistons can start to feel a bit stiff, requiring more force to adjust. It's not a deal breaker but something to be aware of if you plan on constantly changing heights. The tracks are the high grip, wide tread kind that are often found on small excavators. For yard work, that means better traction on wet or muddy grass, and reduced soil compaction compared to traditional wheels. If you have a yard that gets soggy after rain, the tracks help keep the mower from digging in. I tested a similar model on a damp lawn after a light rain, and the mower kept moving without skidding, thanks to the tracks digging into the ground. However, the tracks do add weight. This unit tips the scales at about 150 pounds. That extra mass can be a blessing for stability on steep slopes, but it also makes the mower a bit harder to lift onto a trailer for storage. If you have limited garage space and need to move the mower frequently, be prepared for a bit of a workout or consider a small utility cart. Coverage width is 21.65 inches, which is decent.